Hello and welcome to another stream. I am Brian, the Unskilled Commander. Today we're going to take apart a bunch of decks, de-sleeve them, kind of go through them, see what kind of good stuff's in them for future decks, and to go back into my bulk. Nothing really wrong with the decks, it's just, and this isn't some, spark joy thing, it's just a matter of the decks just don't see a lot of play. They don't really do what I want them to do completely. I've upgraded them a few times, I've played them a few times, play tested on Moxfield, and they're just not hitting right. So there's no shame in taking them apart, using the parts for something else, freeing up deck boxes, all that stuff. And I figured I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to be sitting here unsleeving a bajillion cards, so why not just hang out on stream and chit-chat with everybody. So first I'm taking apart my Rin and Ciri Inseparable deck. So it's the really cool Secret Lair version I got a long time ago. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, because I think I got the Secret Lair largely for that and a couple other cards that were in it, because I like the Trapper Keeper style colors and fun of it. But this really doesn't go into other decks completely. You know, it makes tokens and stuff, so it could still go into like some sort of cat deck or I don't know. But we'll see. I'm not going to get rid of it because I paid for it and I like it. It's not like just a random rare that I got somewhere. And we're just going to take all of the cards out of the sleeves and stuff. And I think, until someone says something in El Chato, I think we're just going to, talk about Secret Lairs. Or not Secret Lairs, like Universes Beyond. And kind of talk about how that is, it's so divided among Magic the Gathering players. It's very odd to me that it is so decisive. I've known people that, when I started becoming a content creator, they're no longer in Magic the Gathering community and stuff. They play a little bit, but it's because they just dislike the idea of Universes Beyond and what it's done to Magic that they stopped playing. And I'm like, okay, I don't, and part of it, I guess, is the whole idea that, it doesn't fit the theme and the worlds. And I'm like, I see where people come from with that mentality. I do. However, because Magic the Gathering, by definition, is a multiverse, how is it not inclusive to any other planes that exist and ideas? So the idea that SpongeBob or Marvel or Walking Dead, Transformers, all these things can be part of the Wizards of the Coast, why not? They are part of I prefer to call it the Omniverse, because multiverse is kind of within the particular world. So the Marvel multiverse ends with worlds that have Marvel. There's not technically a Marvel multiverse where DC heroes are DC heroes. You know what I mean? It's there's not the overlap on those things. So I just like to be a pretentious nerd and say the Omniverse, which is all existing versus possible, regardless of origin and IP and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, the point is, how does any of that not fit with Magic the Gathering? We have Magic the Gathering. Now, I do understand it's more swords and sorcery, and that's how it was begun, and 98% of the realms still deal with that. So yes, I totally get it. However, Marvel has magic. Marvel has werewolves and vampires and zombies and everything else, and they have technology and they have modern stuff, whereas Magic has technology and modern stuff like cars and trains and flying vehicles. So within just the baseline version of it, just is looking at it from a standing back perspective, then yeah, they're all the same. What's the point? What's the problem? When you start to look at them closer, I get how some people can be like, it's still not the same. It's still not, Innistrad and Phyrexia and all these other worlds where these things are, you're not having a Chevy sedan drive down the road, whereas, Transformers and Marvel, you could conceivably have those types of cars depicted in the artwork and whatnot. Okay, I get it. But even Transformers, that's a sentient group of automatons. That's literally Karn. What's the problem? And so it's one of those things where it's I think people just it's just one of those stomp your foot and you got peanut butter in my chocolate, you got chocolate in my peanut butter, and I'm not going to, I don't want other people getting involved in my thing. I really think it is, to a small degree, I think it's kind of gatekeeping, honestly. It's just, I don't want you all these fair weather people coming into my hobby. And, I'm a huge comic book fan, so I've seen that a million times before with the comic book community. And Comic Gate, that was a stupid thing. It's like, oh, you're not a real comic book fan because you watch the Marvel movies. And it's like, well, you're a Marvel fan. But you're not you're not a comic book fan, but you're a Marvel fan. So it's still Marvel, so it's a problem. And it's the same thing. You're talking about, I'm playing Magic the Gathering, but it's not the Magic the Gathering I want to play. I don't want to see SpongeBob go up against Nicol Bolas. Why not? That's freaking hilarious. And first and foremost for me, I definitely think it's like, well, if you don't like that stuff, cool, don't buy it. Which argument only gets you so far, because again, you're sitting down at a Friday Night Magic for 60 card, or you're sitting down for a pod of Commander or any of the types of Magic, and someone pulls out a SpongeBob, well, then you're still dealing with it. You still have to see it. So I do understand how the don't buy it doesn't really cut it, because that's not going to completely help. But if you really look at the landscape with Universes Beyond, once they really got going past just the, secret lairs that they did with, Walking Dead and Stranger Things and stuff like that, which were kind of just, niche-y and more like, just like, oh, isn't this cute? We've got a little crossover, ha ha. But now they started doubling down on the concept of Universes Beyond, rather, and really diving into it. How much has it really changed the landscape of Magic the Gathering? Like, okay, I'll admit I'm not super dialed into every nuance and second of it. I don't do CEDH. I don't care about that. So I can't speak to that area of it. And even Pauper, I can't, speak to that. But, and then, how it's affecting Modern and Legacy and all the different things. So, there's a lot to Magic that I don't personally dive into too much. I have a few 60-card Modern decks that I really like, but I don't get a chance to play because no one plays it. And I play Commander. And I have a couple Pauper decks to play on some friends' streams that like to focus on Pauper. But I don't plan on making a ton of those because I like playing regular Commander. So I will admit that, you could easily argue, it's like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about because you're not talking about the entirety of Magic. It's like, okay, sure, I'm not. But seriously, how much do these Universes Beyond truly affect the gameplay, and how they truly affect, Magic as a game and as a community of players and people that enjoy it? What's it doing? The Marvel Secret Lairs, right? Excuse me. They were a big deal because the Secret Lair format was horribly designed in terms of like, oh, it's first come, first serve, and the things crashed and blah, blah, blah. We won't get into all of that. But, it was a big deal when they came out. And if you look at most of them, they're fairly powerful. Captain America, I have a Captain America deck that was just thrown together. Basically, the enchantments and stuff, or equipments I had left over, a couple enchantments that work in those colors, and it's pretty powerful. Like, I really haven't, if I actually focus on it and try and make it good, it can be a top-tier deck. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be CDH, but it'll be a very, very strong and consistent deck. The only reason I haven't done that yet is because I have my Kemba Ka Regent equipment deck, and I don't want to, honestly, because she's my favorite deck, and I have the custom art from Modfly and all this stuff, I really don't want Captain America to be better than her because I've put a lot of money into upgrading her and trying to full art foil her, which, some of the cards just aren't in foil, so I can't really do that all the way. But it's just a matter of I really don't want to see that deck get outshined by Captain America. But, I'm pretty sure at some point I will take the time to focus on it and see if I can accurately upgrade it and see what it does, and it'll be good. But having said that, you don't really see it anymore. There was a surge of people playing Captain America and Iron Man and, Storm and stuff like that in the very beginning. Where are they now? I hardly ever see anybody pull those decks out anymore. Now, for whatever reason with, I haven't seen very many Black Panther decks to begin with. Storm, I've only seen a few, and then Cap and Iron Man had a lot. Wolverine was popular. Those three had a lot of people building those decks because the Wolverine deck is extremely strong right out of the gate. Basically, just throw anything in there, and he's strong because of the nature of his card. And Iron Man's a little trickier, but it's still really good because it does that whole getting rid of artifacts, they go get other artifacts, which people love to do just anyway. But I hardly ever see it. Now, this is like my area of Magic the Gathering. You know, the people I play with and the channels I watch, all my, you know, friends that are creators and stuff, I don't see them playing it. There could be a whole other section of the community that I'm just not aware of or haven't really tapped into that, you know, they're all over the place. But I don't think so. I don't see it. You know, and what, Assassin's Creed, Fallout, Doctor Who, they were big when they came out. Like, people were building around them because the fandoms loved them and were building around them. And then, you know, other people would be like, oh, expert, like me. I don't care about Doctor Who, but I loved the set because the cards had such interesting mechanics, and a bunch of the commanders I ended up making, you know, the Third Doctor, I have Me the Immortal, I have the Dalek Emperor, and they're fun to play. They're just really fun decks, and I like them, and I'm going to keep them. So, you know, and that's just Doctor Who. You know, I didn't do anything with Fallout or Warhammer because I wasn't really into that at the time. Well, I'm not into Warhammer, so I didn't really know anything about it, and I didn't get those decks. And they were kind of pricey when they came out, I think, the first time. Well, the only time, but they were pricey, and so I didn't get them. I was like, oh, I don't care about Warhammer, so whatever, I just won't get the decks. And that's fine, but I know that there are, in fact, quite a few really powerful, good cards in the Warhammer set. And same with, you know, Assassin's Creed has some really good, fun cards. And there's probably still a bunch of, you know, cards that I haven't looked at or commanders that I haven't looked at to try and build out of Assassin's Creed that might spark some interest and some creativity. Right now, I finished up that, moving on to Dina Soul Steeper. It really pains me to take this one apart because I just loved her as soon as ever since, you know, Strixhaven came out, I pulled the card. I wanted to build it because I love indirect damage, but I just can't really get her to work right. You know, the first iteration that I went through with some upgrades, just even though every card was pretty much had some kind of life gain on it, I wasn't pinging anybody for any real damage. And the idea was, oh, I'll gain a ton of life in Aetherflux Reservoir or something while they're already low on life. It's like, that never happened. The only time she ever won was with the Exquisite Blood Sanguine Bond combo, and she is part of that, so you don't need both of those cards. You only need the one to show up. It's like, that's cool, but I didn't want to make that the only way she won. And at that point, there were tutors in there, so I would tutor for those cards if I got the tutor, and well, then it's like, okay, it's just a one-trick pony, you know, and I didn't like that. So I took all that stuff out, and now I tried to fix the life gain cards and tried to put in poison. So I was like, oh, I'm poisoning my opponents and gaining, you know, life on my end, and it just still didn't really work. So I might come back to her eventually, but for right now, she's going bye-bye, just to see what I can do with the cards and stuff like that. And I have like some really cool variants of her card. Like my friends, I think this one is from the set, I think. And then I think this one was, yeah, this feels different. Oh, it definitely is. Okay, never mind. This was made by my friends, Still City MTG, actually, Brad and Steph. You guys should go check them out on social media and on Twitch. They do some awesome stuff. But yeah, they got me this for Christmas, this alternate art, full art of Dina Soul Steeper. So I'll definitely, like, you know, keep all that and hopefully maybe come back to the deck. But as I was saying about the Universes Beyond stuff, it just, I don't see the big deal, you know, but anyway, sorry, I got distracted myself because I wanted to tell you what decks I was tearing apart while I got to them. But yeah, like, you know, Assassin's Creed and Fallout, the Fallout set had some really good cards in it too. And so you'll see the cards show up, and Lord of the Rings is a big one. And most people will give Lord of the Rings a pass because it is very close to Magic in terms of the way it's sword and sorcery and, you know, no tech, and it's all just, you know, bare bones stuff. It's like, okay, I get it, but there, that just feels very two-faced, you know, a little hypocritical. But it's like, oh, that's okay, but nothing else. Like, well, I do understand that it is close in terms of the concepts, you know, goblins, orcs, you know, talking trees, all that stuff. I get it, but you're going to let that in. You know, I've been saying that I think it'd be fun to have a Universes Beyond that's Masters of the Universe. And you can't knock that one because Masters of the Universe is literally like a Magic the Gathering plane. You know, not literally, but I mean, figuratively, it's perfect hybridization because it is magic and technology together on one realm with superpowers and legendary swords and mystical beasts and yet flying vehicles, but the vehicles aren't just a literal, biplane or a Cessna or a whatever, and they're not, the vehicles aren't just cars. They're weird, like cool transports, so it totally fits. But I'm sure people would be like, oh, here we go. Toy line, man. Has to, besides the fact that it's owned by Hasbro and it should be a given, it should totally be a Universes Beyond Secret Lair something. But it's like people will cry about that, but it's like you can't. That is basically the same as like Lord of the Rings in terms of closeness to magic. But even if it's not, even if it's Stranger Things, even if it's Transformers, although I still debate that a technology, a robotic race is like Karn and the Mir and stuff like that. It's like that should count as being magic adjacent too. But whatever. The most you're going to see is you're going to see some of those cards popping up. You'll see a, Transformer in the deck. You'll see Splicer, or you'll see, Starscream or something like that. You'll see some of the Assassin's Creed characters popping in because they boost, assassins and, other creatures or whatever, like rogues or something like that. It's like, okay, to go along with those particular decks. And so is it really that big of a deal? Is it really hurting you that much to see them? To have someone say they're playing, Altair during a game? Like, is that really my one friend, said, like, oh, I don't like the idea of like, me playing these, Nicol Bolas and Bibblethip and Sarkon, and then you're playing Steve or Gary. And it's like, first of all, Magic players call that one card Gary anyway. So what the hell's the difference? But like, come on. I get it. Yeah, like, oh, a card named Brian. There is one. There's Brian Stoutarm or whatever the hell he's called. It's like spelled Bryon or something, but it's still basically Brian. But that's okay. However, having, a character from Fallout that's named whatever, like Granny whatever or something, it's like, that doesn't work. And to that point, then why wasn't there more backlash over Bloomburrow? And I know there kind of was a little bit, but isn't that the same thing? Like, you're going cute and cuddly anthropomorphic animals. Where is the Magic the Gathering in that? Now, I know that when the Planeswalkers went to that realm, they turned into creatures, so that it was like you had to turn into one to get on the plane. So like, I think Liliana turned into like a squirrel, and Jace turned into an otter or something like that, or one of the other guys turned into an otter. So, it just feels like it's very, very much, picking and choosing and cherry picking what you're going to get upset about and what you're not. If you hate Universes Beyond, then you shouldn't like any of the realms that remotely are not like Ravnica and Innistrad and whatever. You shouldn't have liked New Capenna. You shouldn't have liked Outlaw Junction. And granted, I know a lot of people didn't like Outlaw Junction, not because... Well, actually, I think they didn't like it because it was, like, skewing too far away from Magic the Gathering. But I don't remember hearing anything about New Capenna. But how is that okay? It's literally just, 1930s gangsters or whatever, 1940s gangsters. But that's okay. But, oh my gosh, you go to, you have a Ghostbuster secret lair. Oh my gosh. Like, it just feels very, very dumb, and I think as fans of IPs of things, I think we get too possessive of things and we take them out of context, and I think we do kind of like gatekeep for no reason, because we take pride in something, like we really enjoy this, and we don't want. Here's the thing: I think that people don't want to be made fun of. I don't think they want people to tear down what they enjoy. So that's when it gets big enough that you start to do the gatekeeping and start to be like, well, I don't think that person is gonna appreciate Magic the right way. They're gonna laugh at us, the rest of us. Like, oh, that Avatar: The Last Airbender fan, they're not a real Magic fan. They're not gonna, understand the lore of Magic the Gathering. They're not gonna get into it. That's bullshit. They shouldn't be part of this. We shouldn't have that IP, or Transformers, or Ghostbusters, or blah, 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 or Marvel. Oh, Spider-Man, that's dumb. It's like the comic fans aren't going to understand Magic the Gathering. Hey, Sabby, how you doing? Sorry, I just noticed that now. I don't know how long ago you posted that, but I appreciate you stopping by. Thank you. I'm just ranting while I disassemble these decks about Universes Beyond to start off with, and how I think it's kind of lame that people are so decisive about it, divided rather about Universes Beyond and acting like it's a big deal. Oh, thank you. I appreciate you. Yeah, I don't know. Like, well, what do you think? I just, it's just, it just gets to me whenever I hear, like, at first here's the real thing. At first, I was kind of on that bandwagon as well with like, oh, Universes Beyond is stupid. And like, this is dumb. That shouldn't be in Magic. I think I didn't care so much about The Walking Dead because I really didn't care about the IP to begin with. So I was like, whatever. It's a secret lair. It's like 5 cards, whatever. Like, that's cool, I guess. And then, Stranger Things. And then I was kind of like, okay, why are we doing like, and I liked Stranger Things, the first 2 seasons at least. And I was like, but even then I'm like, eh. And then I think they started announcing the big sets. I think they were announcing like Doctor Who and like whatever, in there. And I was like, I was excited, of course, for the Transformers section. But the Transformers, which does bug me, is that everyone else gets these great sets or 4 precons, and poor Transformers gets like 24 cards in the Brothers War. And I'm like, man, that's bullshit. They better come back and bring us some more Transformers. But regardless, being a huge Transformers fan, I liked that. I liked the idea of being able to get Optimus Prime card and Megatron card and all that. But I think I still was on the fence of like Universes Beyond. And then I just kind of was like, I can't remember what changed my opinion. I don't know if it was a person. I don't know if someone said something, or if I just was like, why am I being a bitch about this? Why do I care? And I just was like, yeah, these cards are fine. Like, let them be in here. Let everyone have their fun. And the last thing, I mean, I don't want to make the entire forever. Yeah, I agree. I like the Assassin's Creed set too, and I think there's probably some really good hidden gems in there that I still haven't even noticed yet, and probably some really good commanders too, because it kind of came and went real fast because it didn't sell and wasn't as big as like the Fallout and some of the other, and like the Warhammer and stuff. So it kind of just fell to the wayside, I think. But what I will say is I do love how the teams at Wizards of the Coast have put clear effort and attention and love into making these sets, because they could have just phoned that shit in. I mean, we're talking major IPs. We're talking, relative, like, not guaranteed money, but pretty much like, well, people are going to buy, as long as they're not absolute trash cards or something, right? Oh, that's awesome. Xiao Jun with clues with Ben. All right, cool. That's awesome. But like, they really did their research. They really did a lot of work. Everyone I talked to that was a Doctor Who fan says they knocked it out of the park with the flavor and the style for the cards, the which moments throughout the show that they picked, key moments, and they paid the right homage to it. And Assassin's Creed, like we just said, like that, I agree. Like, Assassin's Creed did a great job of picking key moments from the games and giving the cards the right flavor text and the right appeal and the right mechanics that made sense to tie it into the game. I bought a few Assassin's Creed cards in like foil or full art foil just because they were some of my favorite scenes from playing the games. Like the moment where within like the trilogy with Ezio, where you meet the projection of the old one, the woman from the other society, and she's like, I want to speak to you and like explain something, and he's like, okay, and she's like, no, not you, the one controlling you. And obviously that's supposed to be, I can't remember his name, but the guy in the oh my god, I can't remember anything now, but the guy who's in the chamber that's using your historical blood to see Ezio. But as a game player, you feel she's talking to you, and that blew me away when I was playing it. Like, I stopped for a second, like, oh, that gives me chills. Like, she's like, no, I want to talk to the person controlling you. And I'm like, oh, that's so awesome. Desmond, thank you. Yes. Obviously she's talking about Desmond, but as a game player, you're like, oh, no, she's talking about me. And they used that scene as one of the cards. And I'm like, amazing. That's the fact that they chose that shows that they played the games, or they had people that understood the lore and all that, because they knew that was a key moment from the franchise. So I think that people, the haters of Universes Beyond, aren't stopping to think about that aspect. I think they're not fully admitting how connected to these IPs Wizards is making the cards and how good they are. Like, so far, knock wood, they've all been really, like, from what I've understood, the Fallout series cards, were a home run. They were like really great flavor. They tied into the games right. They made sense. I'm so excited for Spider-Man to see what they can do with that. And I love Final Fantasy, so that's going to be fun. And of course, I love Avatar, so that's going to be fun. All this is going to be super expensive. But, if they take that kind of focus and attention to detail to the Avatar series, to Spider-Man, Final Fantasy, and whatever they do in the future, that's huge. And that will bring more fans into Magic the Gathering, which will give us more people to play with and give us, like, more... I think it'll breathe more life into Magic the Gathering, because while Magic the Gathering was always fun, it just kind of felt very, very pigeonholed and very like, because it was always those same, I'm not going to say it was always the same planes, because we did go to a bunch of different things, but think about it. We've gone back to Ravnica. We've gone back to like whatever the other one was, like Innistrad. Like we keep going back, and yes, they're favorite realms, and of course I don't have a problem with going back to them. But, it's not stagnant, but, it just is, you're focusing on the same things over and over and over again, while these universes beyond aren't touching the lore of Magic the Gathering, Planeswalker characters or whatnot, and those planes, but it's still breathing some freshness into the gameplay and the interactions and the gathering portion of Magic the Gathering, so that keeps being exciting and keeps being fun, so that you can focus on, the lore, the people that love reading those as they come out for every new set. For like, we've got Dragons, Tarkir coming up. Again, another plane we're going back to. So you see what I'm saying with that. But yeah, so like those people get what they want, but now we get some new people. And then, if you're a fan, you're truly like a fan of Magic the Gathering or whatever thing you are a fan of, comics, anime, American cartoons, whatever. Who doesn't love to talk about their fandom? So come on, if like you get a bunch of new people into Magic because of Spider-Man or because of Avatar or Final Fantasy or Assassin's Creed or whatever, you get the chance now to tell them about the Magic lore that you love. You get to be like, oh yeah, hey, I'm going to play, oh, you're playing the Assassin's Creed stuff. That's cool. I'm playing Nicol Bolas. He's pretty awesome because of, he's like the big bad guy. He's your main enemy. Oh, why? And then you get to go off and tell him, oh, he did this thing, and they did him, blah, blah, blah. And, we imprisoned this Eldrazi in the moon, and all this weird stuff. Like, this gets, bringing people in that don't understand any of that, or don't have, never even knew it existed. Now that gives you the chance to relive it, something that you love, and it gives you a fresh pair of eyes to it, and like they'll ask questions, and then you can explain it, and oh, I don't know why. Let me look that up. I really think people aren't giving Universes Beyond the credit it needs. But that doesn't mean it's like some, magic whatever. Thank you. I appreciate that you're enjoying this. But yeah, like I'm not saying that Universes Beyond is the end all be all and it's the future of Magic. I mean, I honestly hope it isn't just the future. Like I don't want it to turn into nothing but Universes Beyond, because that would suck too. I want to see Liliana in different forms and what new abilities she has, and all the different planeswalkers and all the other like legendary beasts. I like seeing them come back and change, and and making new legendary beasts that are just as powerful, or just as interesting, that are on some bizarre plane that was created to fight the Phyrexia. I mean, that stuff's really fun, and we don't want to ever lose that. But I think the weird battle back and forth that everyone in the community has with Universes Beyond is just so bizarre to me. Okay, so moving on to my third deck to disassemble, it's Baird, Argivian Recruiter. This one I kind of think I knew going into that it probably wasn't going to last forever, just because I had an arena deck that I built off of him that was a lot of fun, because it was like just a bunch of the 4 Mirrodin cards. So they would come in, it would make a little 2/2 creature, but it would give, the equipment would then attach, give it a buff, and his ability says at your end step, if you control a creature with power greater than its base power, you make a 1/1 soldier. It only happens once, and you only make one. But I was able to like have him out, have a couple War Leaders Call enchantments out, and then, hey Tyler, how you doing? Thanks very much for hanging out and stopping by. And then so it was all about like making, so when that 1/1 would come in, your opponent would get pinged a bunch and whatever. So that was fun. So I was like, I really kind of want to see if I could make that into a commander deck. And to be honest, the deck isn't bad. It's just like, it's really just another soldier deck. And I like my other soldier deck much more because that's more honed. This one just has a bunch of like static buffs for the field, like, Glorious Anthem and whatever. And then at my end step, I make a 1/1, which is like maybe it's a 3/3 now with all the buffs or whatever. And it's like, and obviously because it's white, you can toss in a bunch of the token doublers so that maybe you're making 2 or 3, which is great. But it really didn't like wow me or go off crazy, and that's fine. Like, the decks don't have to do that. But I'm just like taking like a hard stock of all my decks because I had around 30, and I'm really looking to disassemble probably 8 or 9 of them, and then just go back through and like salvage the cards and see if I want to trade any into my local game store or build something new. You're very right, Tyler. It's hard to, because you put time and money into these decks. Even if it's like a pauper deck, even if it's like a budget under $50, you're still spending the money. Unless you absolutely magically already had all of them in your bulk. And even then, you still spent money on them at some point. So yeah, you're putting all this time and effort into it. You were excited for the commander. It was a cool idea. You thought maybe maybe you're coming at it with a weird take and you think it's going to be all unique. And then it just kind of, either it just does okay or it completely duds. And you're just like, maybe you upgrade it or whatever. And even if the deck does great, over time your tastes in Magic can change, and then you can build other decks that are more fun to play because they're more interactive, or they make you think more and it's like more interesting. So it's like the deck isn't bad, it's strong and all that, but it's like, I'd never go to it because when you're sitting down for a pot or whatever, you're like, it's always at the back. It's never one of the ones you grab first. So yeah, it's, at some point, take it apart. Yeah, the stained glass are my second favorite. Oops, where are they? They're my second favorite lands for sure. My first favorite are the space ones that are, the easiest way is the space broccoli, where it's like the symbols are floating in space and stuff like that. Those are my favorite. Stained glass, and then the set that had all the space lands. Those space lands are like amazing because they're actual like other planets and stuff. Oh, here we go. This is my favorite set. This type of space land. So I ranted for a good half hour or so about Universes Beyond. Thanks for putting up with that. Let's see. Yeah, the Unfinity lands are just really, really gorgeous. Like, I've never been a huge fan of the unsets. Don't have anything against them. I'm a little like that's actually a great topic to just go into. I'm a little annoyed that they started making some of the cards legal for other playstyles with the last unset. Now, of course, like someone could totally be like, well, Brian, just redo your Universes Beyond rant back at yourself for unsets. And you're absolutely right. That's why I don't really worry about it too much. Like, I don't get bent out of shape about it. But it just, like, I liked the idea. Like, I mean, I was never a huge fan of the unsets, period. Because a lot of them were really goofy. And, like, I appreciate the goofiness of them. But it's like, I want to play real cards. Yeah. That's how I feel. Like, they should have always just been silver border and let them go. Like, and here's the thing, like, I have friends that'll do, like, I don't care about Rule 0 discussions, like, hey, I'm playing a silver border commander, is that okay? Most of the time, I'm like, yeah, go ahead, like, what does it do? Does blah, blah, blah? Oh, it sounds fun, go ahead. So I don't have a problem with the cards, and even playing against them, as long as it's like, this one, all right, we just played 2 games, let me just play my uncommander real quick, because it's fun and goofy, like, sure, whatever. But, like, having the cards be legal, and like what they use, some of them use stickers, and it's like, I think that's kind of why I was never a huge fan, is because I totally understand that the unsets are largely playtest. Like, they will bring in mechanics in the unset, see how they're reacted to, see how they function, and then make them real for actual Magic. Perfect example is Mutate, with the original unset that I actually liked, and to be honest, have wanted to make an undeck about, was the 2-sided animals, where it was like, it had the little piping in the middle, so it was like a squirrel, the front half of a squirrel and the back half of a squirrel, and then the front of a cat and the back of a cat, and horse and rhinos and all these things, and you could put them together, but you could mix and match. So it's like, oh, the front half of the cat says, when a creature enters, you gain a life. And the back half of the rhino says, when you gain a life, your opponents take damage. So you put those two together, and you get your loop or whatever. Those were really fun, and that ended up being Mutate, because they saw it kind of worked, but they had to tweak it so that it would function within the rest of the Magic world. Okay, yeah, Saw in Half reprinted it in another set is the way they should bring them into the game. That's a good point. Because if you do it that way, and it's been again tested through the unset, or you could even like it doesn't even have to be the same name, right? Like they could be like Saw in Half could have been like the version, and then all they do is just change the name, but the functionality is exactly the same. So yeah, I agree. Like that's hopefully when they do more unsets, they do it similar to that, or they go back to the original way and just let them be their own thing. Because most of the unsets are just wacky, zany, bizarre shit. They're not even remotely playable in terms of like real games, except for occasionally they'll sneak in a new mechanic, like I said, and test it. And I know there's something else, like there's another recent mechanic that I know was in some of the unsets. I can't remember what it was, but like I know the mutate is the best example that I can think of. But yeah, so like I know I have some friends that just absolutely love the unsets because they're so bizarre and goofy, and I don't have a problem with bizarre and goofy. I love that kind of humor and all that stuff. But yeah, for some reason, it is similar to the Universes Beyond argument where it's like I saw Magic as being this, serious thing, and then you've got this wacky, weird stuff. And I'm like, that's not Magic. That doesn't fit. So again, I totally understand where people come from when they have that argument for anything, Universes Beyond, unsets, everything. But like I said before, it's just one of those things where you kind of got to just step back and just let it go, really, because it's like, it's not hurting anybody. You don't have to play the cards, and if you go up against them, it's annoying. But like, here's the thing. I think this might be a good idea for in terms of everything we've been discussing tonight, unsets and Universes Beyond. What's truly more annoying? Sitting down with your, pure magic deck that's all magic, planes, cards, and everything, and awesome creatures against Iron Man or against SpongeBob, or sitting down against and having someone play Rhystic Study. Really, what's more annoying? Going up against SpongeBob, which is just Joda, or sitting and I was like, oh great, now I gotta freaking waste mana to pay for your stupid Rhystic Study every time I do want to do anything, or I'm just giving you the advantage if I let you draw. That to me is more annoying. The Rhystic Studies are way more annoying than having someone say, oh, I'm playing an undeck, or I'm playing a card from Infinity, or whatever I think it was Infinity had the legal ones, but it's playable legal. Like, okay, whatever. Sure. I don't think people stop and think about that either. Like, there's plenty of cards in Magic the Gathering that are way more annoying to go against, more game stopping and dragging things down to a crawl than going up against, oh no, this card's named Peter instead of Tenflan, and like, who cares? Opposition Agent, yeah, perfect. That's a great example. Or not necessarily. Trouble in Pairs, but any of the cards that are just extreme advantage. Hell, like the Major Eldrazi, right? I would rather you sit down and we're in the middle of a game and you drop a character from The Walking Dead than you drop Emrakul or Ulamog. Because that's like, oh, great, now I lost my turn, and then like you get to like destroy my stuff, and then I take my extra turn and have nothing left, or, oh, I have to mill half my deck or whatever. It's like, yeah, you know what? Go ahead and use, Rick or Carl or whatever from Walking Dead. Or go ahead, attack me with 11 from Stranger Things. I'd rather have that than Annihilator 4. But that's okay because that's from the Magic Realms. It's like, whatever. But again, I don't want to, I was a little dismissive. And it's like, it's all just opinion is honestly all it boils down to. And I keep telling people and sometimes have arguments with friends that opinions can't be wrong. Because, we're not going to get into anything but like, racism is not an opinion. Stuff like that. Hate is not an opinion. But my favorite color is blue, your favorite color is red. That's an opinion. Those can't be right or wrong. Oh, your favorite color is blue, you're wrong. No, that's impossible because it's my favorite color. It's my food. My favorite food. It's my favorite commander deck. So, okay, so your hubby's deck is Kobe, Head of Sneak, and it's so dumb but funny. Yeah, I think I know the name, and I know, is that one of the legal ones, or is that just like a deck that, they ask to play every once in a while? But I know I've seen someone play Head of Sneak or mention Head of Sneak something. But like if it's fun, then that's okay too. And as long as everyone's cool with it when you sit down to play, what's the problem, right? All right, so Phoebe can't be blocked by creatures with flavor text. Nice. 2 blue and a black. Phoebe permanently steals target creature's text box. That creature loses all rules text, flavor text, and watermarks. This creature gains them. Okay, that is pretty funny. I can see how that would be annoying for sure to go up against, but so is it a legal card or is it just a silver border? But in either case, it does sound fun. But it's like it's one of those things where, again, I think some of the worst cards to go against are the ones that permanently steal your stuff. Like, it's one thing to be like, oh, I take your commander or your whatever until end of turn, it gains haste or whatever, and I can use it, I can sacrifice it, I can attack you with it. Is a silver border. Okay. No, but that's still cool that it's like, a fun uncommander deck. Like I said, I still kind of want to build that uncommander deck around that precursor to mutate. But anyway, yeah, like if it steals anything that steals your cards permanently, just sucks. Especially if it's your commander, because it's like most people do build their decks around the commander. I've actually originally I used to build decks that were just the color of the commander, and I rarely cared what the commander did. A little bit, most of the time, not all the time. But I have of course since then have gotten better, thankfully, and definitely build the decks around the commander. So if the commander gets blown up too many times or countered or just taken, then it's like, well, then the deck shuts off. I've tried to also learn to put auxiliary things in the deck, not just win cons, but auxiliary cards that do the same thing as the commander, because that's important for that very reason. It's like, okay, your commander gets taken out 3 times. Now it's like 8 mana to recast. You don't need, I can't waste that. I got other things to do. Cool. I have these other 3 creatures in the deck somewhere that do pretty much the same thing as the commander. So I'll just try and rely on those for the last push. All right. We de-sleeved 3 full decks. I got a crap ton of lands I got to sort through. And because I'm that kind of person where I have everything sorted by, so my sorting is by color, alphabetically. So I have a row. I have 2 4-row boxes. So I just bought them recently. So now everything has its own thing. So green has a row, and I actually put them in WUBRG order. So white, blue, black, red, green. Each one has its own row. Artifacts or colorless have their own row. Multicolor have their own row. And then lands have their own row. Within lands, I do separate them with basics and non-basics. And the non-basics are alphabetized because I'm, crazy. And then I also have I can't remember, it might be, I think, excuse me. I think it's in front of the lands because that's not as big. I also have a subsection of my planeswalkers. So they're not in their colors. All the planeswalkers are together because when I first started playing Magic, that's when the planeswalkers started becoming big. Like their planeswalkers existed and their cards existed. But I think it was probably back in I don't remember what core set, because it was back when core sets were a thing. So 2018, 2019 or whatever. Those core sets were when they started putting each core set had 3 or 4 planeswalkers in it, and I really liked planeswalkers because I thought they were fun. So I always wanted to try and get all of them. So I have a bunch of those. So I'm just gonna sit here and sort these by named lands and basics. So a good discussion topic, since we're doing lands, is what do people think about the combination of lands? So do you try and keep it to be just basics, or do you have nothing but non-basic lands? I kind of feel that based off of what I've seen, land destruction still isn't really a thing. People always talk about it, but no one really puts it back in their decks. I'm okay with that because I would get super mad if I had limited resources and then you took them away from me. I know it's no different technically. But it is technically. It is different. You blow up a creature, that sucks, but I have the mana. I can try and recast something else on my next turn. You blow up all the mana, now I can't do shit. And now it's, that's when I get upset because it's it's not about, figure it out, get around it. And it's no, you're stopping me from literally playing the game. I don't mind if I'm behind. I don't like it when people stop me from playing the game completely. And I understand the stacks players is a thing, and I do have a deck or two that has some stacks aspects. So, but it's more about like slowing people down than removing their resources completely. Because like I want you to be able to have fun and play the game. I just don't want you to have creatures or whatever it is that you're, you know what I mean? Like that's the difference between like, I don't want you to win, but I want you to actually play the game. So let's see. Make some space. Is a rest game for me? I'm not sure. I get that. The nice thing about de-sleeving. Oh, gotcha. Land destruction is a reset. Yeah. And that also, it's okay. I understand you're tired. Stupid, whatever. No, I can't even think. But yeah, I get what you're saying. And that's the thing. It slows the game down too. Like, board wipes can be bad depending on the level of the game, but like just completely destroying mana is like, well, now you're literally, like you're saying, resetting the game, and it's like, did we want that, or did we want to just slow the person that's winning down? Now we'll go ahead and start just putting stuff into their color-coded piles, chat a little bit more. But yeah, as you can tell, I like to talk and I like to rant and just go off about things. I might actually start doing that more, because like, oh, it's fun to talk to people when they can't talk back. But seriously, I like the idea of like long form content and stuff like that on YouTube and such, of like deep dives on my opinions on, you know, Spider-Man, or like, you know, the current state of Spider-Man and the comics or whatever, and you know, without being like judgmental, but just saying like, oh, this is what I think, and this is where Spider-Man was, and like this is my favorite section, whatever. You know, like I like the idea of just picking a topic and going off on it, and you know, and then getting the feedback and saying like, oh, I hated everything you just said. You're an idiot, or hey, you brought up a good point. You know, I didn't think of it like that. You know, whatever. So I might try and start doing some of that a little bit. I saw they announced Zell for Final Fantasy. Yeah, so what's funny about Final Fantasy for me is I was huge into Final Fantasy. Like, my very first Final Fantasy game was Final Fantasy VII, of course, because it was a greatest hits for PlayStation. So I was in a toy store, I think it was like Toys R Us or something, and I wanted to get a new game for my PlayStation that I only had for a few months, and I was looking around and I had heard of Final Fantasy, and there it was with like the little green greatest hits thing, and it was only like $20 or whatever. So it was cheaper than normal. And so I was like, oh, you know what? Why not? I'll grab this. I was going to grab something else, actually. Well, yeah. See, like, you mean to start or your favorite? Because I didn't say it was my favorite. I just said it was the one I started with. Because and in fact, now that I'm talking about it, I do in fact remember I went in, to start. Okay, yeah. I went into the store, to the game section, actually to buy Army Men 3D. Or just Army Men or whatever. Because it was back then it was a game series that was like, it was, you know, the little green Army Men figures, but it was like an actual, it wasn't like a Call of Duty, but it was sort of like a Uncharted or something, where it's like there's missions and you're going through and you can get weapons and upgrade and stuff like that. So I had wanted to go in and get that, but then I saw like next to it Final Fantasy, and I'm like, oh, that's on sale, and I've heard good things about that. And I'm like, and I like, you know, role-playing games. So I was like, RPGs. I'm like, all right, I'll get that. Absolutely loved it. You know, so much fun, you know, exploring and leveling up. And I like, you know, tried to max every character and all that stuff. The only thing I didn't like about 7, which is probably going to be blasphemy for everyone that says it, I really didn't like the ending. Because I think supposedly back then they had planned on doing a movie to finish it. So like it was left as a kind of cliffhanger. Like the ending wasn't much closure, because they had planned on doing like a wrap up, you know, whatever, hour-long CGI movie, and they never did. Missed a land. So it just left me, I'm like, well, I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know what happened. Like, stuff, and then we see Red 7, like, with his cubs, and I'm like, okay, he survived. Like, what else? So I still love the game, but I was like, that's not the best ending. So then 8 came out, and I liked the ending, but I really didn't care about the characters that much. Like, I love the magic system, where it's like you face a new enemy and you absorb their magic, and that's how you learn new magics. That was really cool. I really enjoyed that. But I didn't care about Squall, or whatever his name was, and I didn't care about like really any of the other characters. So I just kind of like, but it was still fun. So I just plowed through it, and, you know, again, tried to level up everybody. And then Final Fantasy IX. Final Fantasy IX is my favorite, because that had both I loved most of the characters. I really cared about them. And I loved the ending. Because it was closure, it was a happy ending, and I was like, yes, this is the game. I think somewhere in that time frame of those 3 games across however many years that was, because I loved 7 so much, I went back and bought all of the other games on Game Boys. Because back then they were available. Like you had to buy, like there was a couple compilations. I think there was one that was like 4, 5, and 6 or whatever. So I played 1 through 9, and then I went back and played them. And then I played, I liked 10 was okay. And then I always get it confused because I never know which one it is. But the point is, I played all the way up through both Lightning, which I think is 13. Like 13 and then 13-2 or whatever. Except for the online game, because I didn't want to spend money on I didn't have the money to spend on a monthly subscription to go play that. So that's the only Final Fantasy up through 13 that I never played. So I was huge into Final Fantasy. But after that, like I enjoyed Lightning. As a character, I did enjoy Lightning, and the games were good. But at that point, we'd gotten so far away from turn-based, which is my preferred format. And it was all just like, I'm just running around, and I still don't like the stun gauges and all that crap. So I was like, man, all right, I'm kind of done with Final Fantasy. So I'm excited for the set because, I definitely want to see what they do with it. And I'm sure it'll bring back all kinds of memories about some of the stories, although I really don't remember anything about any of the stories, to be honest. But I'm not like, it's like, as much as I want to buy collector boosters, they're so stupidly expensive at this point. I can't. Like, I'm going to get my normal, I'll get 2 boosters, 2 collector boosters, and then singles, and probably the same with Avatar, honestly, because I'm saving up my money because I want to buy a booster box of Spider-Man because I like opening packs. It's just fun. I know it's stupid. I know it's like basically gambling because it's like you're paying for whatever, but it's like, it's fun when you crack that, especially the collector boosters, because everything is pretty. It's either foil or it's full art, and hopefully it's full art foil. So you're pulling these gorgeous cards, and you get lucky and you pull like a really good card, or you pull one of the cards you're interested in. It's even better. So I'm definitely going to do that for Spidey. But the thing is, I would totally do it for all the other ones if they just weren't so greedy. Like, yeah, it is fun. It's fun opening packs. Like, right now, from what I'm seeing, like, a regular play booster box is still around $100, $120, depending. That's, well, considering that's kind of what it always was, that's not bad. Collector booster boxes were $250, and that was a lot. And that was like, oh, man, that's kind of BS. But I shelled it out because I liked pretty. I like shiny things. And then they went and like lowered the number of packs in the collector booster boxes, which is real bullshit. But I'm like, well, whatever, okay. And then I think, honestly, like I think they started doing it with the Fallout set. And then the Assassin's Creed set, which I had planned on buying a box of. Oh, no. Because it's Universes Beyond, for some ridiculous reason that's different, $400 and some for a collector booster box. What? No, what the hell? You're almost doubling the price because it's an IP. I mean, really? So I'm like, I just refuse. I'm like, no, I'm not paying that. I will buy a couple packs because I like opening packs, but literally a couple, like 2. And then that's it. But because Spider-Man like means so much to me as a character and like, a franchise and all that stuff, I'm saving up my money. I have a bunch of store credit, and I'm going to save that. Hopefully I'm going to trade in some more cards between now and then and get some more store credit. So that ideally, I can almost pay for a full... Like, basically, if I can get the price down to $150 cash plus store credit, I will get a box of Spider-Man collectors. But, like, I mean, there was a time when I was, like, willing to get, like, 2 collector booster boxes if it was a set I really liked, like Kamigawa. That's, like, $500. But that's 2 boxes, and it's a ton of packs and a ton of cards. So I was willing to go back. But the way they crank stuff up now, I'm not going to shell that kind of money out. And it just feels like they're like, yeah, you're getting more if someone buys the booster, but you could probably sell a lot more and make a lot more money if you lowered the price to something more reasonable. Like, I understand it's an IP and you paid for the IP, but like, come on, like $300 for a collector booster box. The normal, like Tarkir is going to be 250 and, Final Fantasy's 300. It's like, no, I don't like that, but I would probably pay it. But like cranking it all the way up to like 450, 500, it's like, no, we're not playing that game. But that's just me. There's plenty of people that don't ever buy collector boosters, and that's fine. If you don't care about whether it's full art or not, then why would you? Why would you waste the money? There's like, look, you can see right here, like I got this full art and these full arts, but then I got these regulars and stuff. So it's like, it's not like I am against the idea of it or something. I totally, play with regular cards, non-foil, non-full arts, non-whatevers. But it's just, look how pretty this is, and look how pretty this is. It's like they don't function any differently than a normal card. They do not guarantee you a win any different than a normal card, but they're pretty. And I like the shiny pretties. Everything is now color-coded. So you can see, oops, it goes over here. So I had green, red, white, black, and then multicolored. The next step for me will be going through all these, seeing if there's anything I need, like I want to get rid of, just like put in the trade pile, and then sort them by alphabet, and then sort them into my bulk. And also, when I go through them, see if anything catches my eye in terms of legendary creatures. They're like, oh, maybe I should try and build this as a creature or a commander deck instead of the ones they came from.